Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Today we are adding yet more JavaScript to your utility belt. Today we're going to be covering for loops. So let's go on ahead and get started because these things can be a little crazy. So let's go on ahead and get started. Please open up your Visual Studio Code and I will go ahead and get this out the way so we can get started. Sounds good? Perfect. All right, so whenever dealing with any type of for loops, I think before we were dealing with, actually, I don't think we actually worked with any of them. So let's go on ahead, create a couple of files here. I think we all know what kind of files those are going to be. And let me fix my microphone real quick. There we go. And let's create our actual files. Since we're working with for loops, we'll name it just that. So for loop .js, and I think there will be some output here, so we'll do for loops HTML. All right, that's perfect. And let's see what kind of thing we can do here. Let's open up, well, let's get a bare bones markup, add our actual script. That's just going to be script and the source of where it's at. I think we're just going to use the console here, but that's okay. For loops.js, and defer that just in case there's any HTML that needs to actually load before the actual JavaScript itself, and make sure that's opened up with live server. We'll slide that bad boy over here and put that over there and close that. And oh, come on. There we go. Okay, I think that'll work. We'll just put that up just like that. So for the actual for loop, now this one is gonna be a doozy. Let's take it nice and slow. So let's actually say we have a for loop, which is this: for something, okay, do something. All right, now that's the short, easy way to just kind of look at it. So for a specific set of requirements, we're going to do something. Now what we are going to do is say for, we'll create a variable, let I, all right, this is going to be our initializer. Okay, so we're saying let I equal to 0. That's our initialization. Okay, so and then what we're going to do after we actually initialize that, we need to have a condition. So our condition is going to be right after the initialization. So let's put in while the I is equal to 0 and the condition of I being less than 10. Okay, and then we're going to update I using this right here. Okay, so the double addition sign says, okay, run through, each time we run through this for loop, we're going to increment I by 1. Okay, so what we can do, we can actually test this. Let's console log. Hi there. Okay. All right, and let's actually put some comments above our for loop. Okay, so we start with the initialization. Okay, then the condition, and then the update. And that's what we have here. Initialize I for 0. Okay, have our condition while I is less than 10, and then increment I by 1. All right, and so as long as we actually meet this requirement here, all right, the most important thing really is the I less than 10. Okay, this right here is just saying, okay, I is equal to 0, so I is definitely going to start out less than 10. And as we continue to go through this, increment I by 1. Let's, oh, well, what do we got here? Let me, do I have less than, while I is equal to 10, console out. Did I actually do an infinite loop here? Let's see, what do we got going here? Okay, I is equal to 0, I is less than 10, and then increment I, and then console log. Okay, let's stop that, refresh it. Let's comment this out real quick because we might have an ongoing loop. We definitely don't want that. Okay, let's see. Might be something wrong with the actual program running. Let's double check here. Bring this over, inspect, hit the console. Okay, that looks good. Okay, close this. And well, I is less than 10, increment I, and then it should stop. So that should be good. Good. Let's uncomment this. Okay, let's uncomment this. Okay, nothing crazy here. And let's console log hi there. Okay, and then I get hi there with the number of 10. Okay, all right, so nothing crazy there. All right, it must have been something with the live server or just the browser itself. I thought maybe I was stuck in an infinite loop, because what can happen is if your condition here is crazy, like I is less than a gazillion, then it's going to run continuously a million times or a gazillion times until I is less than a gazillion and then stop. All right. So what else can we do here? Well, we can, let's see here. We got that. We can say here is the beginning of the loop, just so we are seeing something. So let's do that. Console log. Okay, this is the beginning of the loop. Okay. And that's what we see out over here, because we're going through that a number of different times. We go through it once. Okay, I then gets incremented by 1. So I is going to be 1. Is 1 less than 10? Yes, it is. So go through it again. Okay, gets incremented. I is then 2. Is 2 less than 10? Yes, it is. So go through it again. And all the way up until we get to I is 10. So let's see here. That's the beginning of the loop. Here is the ending of the loop. End of loop. Okay, so we should see that in here. So we see, if I scroll up, we got beginning of loop, hi there, end of loop. Beginning of loop, hi there, end of loop. Okay, and we can actually output the results of this too. So after hi there, or actually even better, let's do this. Yeah, let's do this. Let's say console.log. Okay. And now we're going to use the template strings here. So, and that's going to be right above the tab key, and press shift. And what we'll do is we'll say I is currently, what? Let's see what I is. We'll actually output I, and then we'll scroll up. Okay. Beginning of loop, I is currently 0. Okay. End loop. Beginning of loop, I is 1. End loop. Beginning of loop, I is 2. End loop. Beginning of loop, I is 3. Okay, so we're always incrementing by 1 until we get all the way down to, look at that. Beginning of loop, I is currently 9. End of loop. So what happens when I then gets incremented? It's 10. Is 10 less than 10? No, it's not. So that means we stop, and that's it. Okay. So that's your for loop. You always got to have your initial, I've been having trouble saying this, initialization. So you always start with this, okay? Then you have your condition, and then you have your actual update. Then from there, you'll cycle through the entire for loop with everything that you're actually trying to do. All right, let's comment that out. And let's take a look at another example here. So let's go with this. Let's say let our array equal. Now we remember arrays from earlier in the series. We'll have an apple, we'll have a pear, we'll have an orange, and that's about it. Now let's cycle through this. Okay, so for let I, this is where we are initializing our counter. It's going to be equal to 0. And before we move any forward move any further, let's go over here and let's just take a look at our array. There it is in the console. You see there's 3 individual items in there. And if I do our array dot length, you see I get the number 3. So now for our condition, we can actually use that. So let's use that in our condition. So we initialized I to be equal to 0, and while I is less than or equal to what? Our array dot length, which we just saw that our number was 3, and make sure we continue to increment our initializer of I. Now what we can do is actually log that out. Let's log out our array and use the index, because with the actual index, it's going to arrays always start at 0. So we're going to increment through every index of the array. So in order to do that, we're going to use our variable I, which also gets incremented throughout the actual for loop. Okay, so here we have the output, apple, pear, and orange, and it does actually test all the way up until I is less than or equal to 3. So it is still going to spit that out. So let's just do less than. Instead of less than or equals to 3, let's do less than 3. Okay, and then there we have the undefined, which is gone because there was nothing else after, there's no other indexes after 3 that we have. So we have a 0, we have a 1, and we have index 2. All right, so this is good. This is good. Yet another way to actually work with actual for loops. That we will actually show you a number of other ways to work with for loops and a number of different ways to work with actual arrays. But this was just to, kind of stick your big toe in the water and be able to see this for the first time. All right. Now, this is what I have to say at this point in time. I strongly suggest and encourage you to practice. Come up with some dummy arrays for yourself. And try to actually, it's easy to code along with this, but but until you actually come up with errors of your own, you're not really going to get a good handle on all of the different, options that we're learning within JavaScript. Same thing with the HTML and the CSS from the previous videos. All right. Once you jump into the JavaScript, which is a pure, now you're actually programming. The CSS and HTML, it's more of designing. I mean, it is still coding, but it is more of a designing type of thing where you're working with, HTML, and you do work with the DOM a lot. You probably write more CSS than you will HTML. But now when you actually add the JavaScript to your applications and pages, and there's going to be different levels. There's going to be mom and pop JavaScript, and there's going to be full scale applications, where you have thousands and thousands of lines of codes. All right. And you're working with a number of different developers. So you got to practice this stuff in order to actually get better at it. OK. And so that's the TED Talk for today. If you got stuck on anything or were unclear about anything, feel free to leave a comment or email me directly. I can definitely give some clarity on a few things. Subscribe to the channel, of course, all the time, because you want to be able to see this within your feed. Definitely more subscriptions helps me out with actually creating different types of material, helps our team out with all of the different, our camera guy, that handsome fellow that he is. He can actually, when he sees those subscriptions, he doesn't have to hear my mouth all the time, yelling at him. Our lighting crew, I mean, we got a pretty big team here. So we definitely want to make sure that everyone's putting in their work and seeing that it's all coming to fruition. So let's go on ahead, end it on that note, and hit the notifications, like, subscribe, and that is mainly it for today. Full stack out.